Hello, welcome back to Changing Shapes and our weekly segment, Wish I Thought of That. Hi, Hiba, how are you doing? How have you been?
Hi, hi. I'm good. I'm good. I'm still enjoying fall. There's so much going on with work, with life, with friends, everything in between. It's a busy quarter. That's how Q4 goes, right? Q2, Q3 is a little bit like, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, it's the end of the year, it's the end of the year. So
Yeah,
we're
gotta get
we're do
get those
we're doing
budgets
that.
signed off. Exactly.
That's exactly what we're that's exactly what we're doing right now. No, but it's good. It's
Exactly.
good. Yeah.
Classic. Sounds good though. So, I mean, I kind of like the that sort of driven vibe of this season in a way. It feels like the wind and my mood are kind of in the same place, like just keep it going, keep things pushing forward. So you've brought our subject today. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So, full disclaimer, I'm very intrigued about this topic. I'm more intrigued about what you think about it. I haven't made up my mind if I'm a fan or not. So that's my disclaimer. I'm just here to bring you the information. So, ChatGPT launched their new browser called Atlas, right? I'm sure you heard about it. It's been all over all of the tech news and everything. Two things kind of stood out to me. Firstly, I was just like, I'm seeing a lot about this, but I'm not really hearing from a lot of people that I know are power ChatGPT users that they've tried it out and they have an opinion. So I didn't really hear about any firsthand opinions about it, which made me kind of go, why? Is it not good? Secondly, when they launched it, without clicking anything, I immediately was just like, but Perplexity just did that like a few months ago, and that they call it Comet, right? And it's and it Comet I played with a fair bit, and I did have a point of view on what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. But I wanted to talk about Atlas today because I think it's posing a really, really interesting question in terms of how users interact with the internet, which is how anyone will interact with anything that anyone's building, right? But secondly, I was really curious about how they were positioning it because the way they talked about ChatGPT Atlas was that ChatGPT is a product, like it's a place that you go to do a thing. But Atlas is kind of taking that step towards an operating system almost. So the idea is you can turn memory on in this browser, right? So browsers like Safari or Chrome, something like that. You can turn memory on, and then let's say you're researching where to go on holiday, and at the end of the week you can be like, okay, so pull up all the different hotels that I looked at over this week for the holiday that I'm planning in France, and it can pull up all of those things. So you don't need to bookmark the information anymore. You don't need to kind of manage and sort the information in your brain or in the browser or in a note. The browser is going to do all of that for you. Embedded within Atlas is also an agent. So you could actually have the agent, like if you're looking up recipes, you can say, great, can we add some of those ingredients to my weekly grocery list that I have going in such and such app or in your notes or whatever. It's this in the simple words, this is not Chrome with an agent kind of panel, kind of like what Perplexity was trying out. It really is about reimagining the browsing experience with AI at the core. So that's just a little bit of context. So far, have you spoken to anyone who's actually tried out Atlas or Comet before?
Yeah. No, I mean, so neither actually. So I've been playing around with Atlas a little bit. The one place where I was actually surprised that it did work, which is I always have to laugh because why is the classic example of what people do on the internet is book a holiday and
Yeah,
book a restaurant, right? Because like there
sure.
are other things we do, and I don't actually do that much. But I
Yeah.
did actually. I've been meaning to get a voucher for a restaurant for a friend as a gift,
Hmm.
and they live in a place in a town in Germany where it's not super easy to find. There's no like tech startup that makes it easy for you to do that.
Yeah.
And I've been procrastinating on it because it would take some research. And that one, surprisingly, it actually delivered what I needed immediately compared to my previous Google searches. So that one, I was kind of skeptical, but actually that one I was like, oh, okay, that's not bad. And
Hmm.
obviously I haven't tested out I've been using
Mm.
this for a while and I'm going to go back to what I've been searching
Yeah.
and kind
Yeah.
of learning from my experience because I just haven't
Yeah.
been using it long enough,
Yeah. Yeah.
which makes me wonder if it's a sort of, it's a sort of underwhelming beginning slow burn where I have to start using this thing for A, to learn about
Yeah.
me, and B, it's still in its infancy, right? So is it still the Apple Vision Pro where
Hmm.
it's a cool concept and I get where it could lead, but it's not
Hmm.
there yet. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, where is it not there yet because of me, and is it not there yet because of the capabilities that it provides? But as a concept,
Yeah.
I'm curious with reservations around a
Hmm.
couple of things. But I haven't heard
Yeah.
anybody else talk about it. Like even in the circles that I run in, nobody's been saying, "Oh, this is amazing," as opposed to the Arc browser, which I use and
Hmm.
love,
Yeah.
where that
Yeah.
was, that started
100%.
popping up everywhere, and everybody was talking about using it. So that's an interesting difference for me.
And 100%. Funny you mention Arc browser because Dia is the kind of offshoot from Arc browser, and they were already ahead of the curve on this. It's just that ChatGPT is the big OpenAI is the big player, right? That's now offering this, but they're not offering anything that's really novel or they're not doing anything better than Arc browser or Dia. Comet, yes, because they offer memory. So there's a couple of things, and I think, and I have a point of view on why it is that you feel underwhelmed by when you heard about it when you started trying to use it, and I also have some just general UX concerns and things that came to my mind when I thought about it a little bit more deeply. So, firstly, do you remember what life was like before Google Maps?
Yes, I'm aging
Do you remember?
myself, but yes,
Do you remember how you had to actually, before you went on a road trip, print out like a map and directions for how to get from point A to point B, what highway, what exit to take, and all these kinds of
yes.
things?
And I mean, one
Yeah.
of my core memories is me sitting in the back of the car and my dad being like, "Okay, here's the book of maps,
Right.
the atlas.
Yeah.
We're going here.
Yeah.
You figure it out, and you're the one who's going to tell me where to take a turn and where we are, and you got to follow us on the map." And one of my colleagues, he loves going into the mountains, and he deliberately doesn't use his phone, and he uses a
Mhm.
compass and a map. And I was
Mhm.
talking to him and thinking, I really need to do that more because I need to hone this skill just for as a hobby. I want to be able to navigate with a map. And so I have a compass and maps, and my
Okay.
goal is to just go out and also navigate and orientate myself because I think
Okay.
it's important, but it's hard. It's so
It is
hard.
really hard. It is so hard because we have gotten so used to the convenience of Google Maps and Apple Maps telling us what is the best route from point A to point B. If you're going by bike, how to get there. If you're going by car, how to get there. That exact same transition is what Atlas is about. It's what these AI browsers are doing. They are what were Google Maps to us back then. But what does that mean? So before you, little Tom, had to know how to read a map. You had to know what the different symbols meant, how to read the map legend, and how to plot a path. And you could pick multiple routes and paths that you could take, right? You had to really engage your brain. And you had to be able to differentiate things like a highway from a road going through a town. Now, before we had AI browsers, i.e., a few months ago, we all have mental model of how the internet works. We know that there are primary sources of information. We know that there's Google search, which indexes all the primary sources of information. We then choose to go deeper into one source or another source. And we actually understand biases, perspectives, and we decide I'm going to go with this as the credible source for if I can take ibuprofen with my beer in the evening, whatever it is, you are responsible for the decision. You're responsible for what you do with the information. Now, let's consider what life is like through an AI browser. So, we're in an AI browser, right? Maybe I haven't started browsing anything yet. I just ask a question. Hey, can you make suggestions for all the possible restaurants I can go to in such and such area? Like Google search, it's going to pull up a bunch of results. Now, from there, you can ask the agent to go and actually identify options from all of these sources Or you can continue to click around, and then maybe you do get to a page which summarizes the 15 best places to go eat in the city, and then you can have the ask the AI questions about the content, right? So just for a little bit of context, there's many levels and points at which you can tap the AI to do some thinking for you or some research for you. What happens when we ask the AI to do this? The AI is not unbiased. The AI has been trained on a finite amount of data by people from a mostly Western North American perspective. Now, we're just talking about restaurant recommendations. But if you now insert any other topic, this starts to become a little bit worrying. So, this isn't just about directions, it isn't just about restaurants, it's about how we are consuming information. You are not using your own version of the internet anymore. You're going to be using their version of the internet. I hate to make it an us versus them sort of thing, but without making it personal, that's what we are signing up to do with browsers like this. So it is going to the price of convenience is you are going to lose that mental model of the internet. That's a one kind of topic that I think we should discuss, we should get into a little bit. But then I also wanted to speak to your point about why do I feel so underwhelmed just generally about it? I think there's a couple of reasons for it. It's a slight efficiency gain at best. Why? Because the agents are still not equipped to handle complex tasks. So the agents aren't fully there yet, but the marketing is. We're trying to present this AI forward future that has already arrived, but we're not there. We're not there. People don't feel the pain enough to switch their browsing experience, right? Because everyone very much is comfortable, happy, and is in agreement that they want to explore the internet on their terms. That's my hypothesis for why I think you were a little bit underwhelmed when you tried it, because it's like an added layer of complexity. If anything, you have to babysit the agent because you don't trust it yet. So is it really helping you multitask? I don't know. So I don't think we're quite there yet, but that's my hypothesis. Thoughts?
I think there's a couple of things there. I think the thing that strikes me about this is the level of confidence that it presents truth to you and how it
Hmm.
makes you feel about what is this supposed truth.
Yeah.
And depending on what I want to do, I'll have a different view on what kind of truth I want. By that, I mean, you have factual truth. So one example for that where this can go really badly is there was a news report out of the UK where somebody had to be rescued by helicopter
Hmm.
from an island that is accessible by foot when it's low tide. And when
Hmm.
high tide is there, it's super dangerous and you can't get off and you potentially could drown. And
Hmm.
he admitted himself that he didn't check the proper weather report. He asked GPT, when is it high and low tide?
Wow.
GPT doesn't live in the real world and gave its best possible answer, which was incorrect. And he had to be airlifted with a helicopter and rescued. So that is factual truth. Whether tide is in or out, that's not
Hmm.
a debate. It's not philosophical. It either is or isn't.
Hmm.
And so I think there's one aspect is I just need the factual truth that is the answer to a very specific kind of question. Then there's the more philosophical truth where, we might be talking about everything from what's the best restaurant to the best economical model for a company or a country, where you want to have more information to make up your mind
Hmm.
about what is valid and true for you.
Hmm.
And that's where I need more of a model where there's more different types of information coming together.
Hmm.
And I think models like ground news are more interesting there, where it presents to you different types of information with what kind of background do these news organizations have, so that I have this platter to look at and kind of understand what is being talked about this subject.
Hmm.
So depending on that, and I think the the parallel to it was the I'm feeling lucky Google button, where it just takes you straight to the site.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of the same, except there I knew both from experience as well as the button that it might be a hit or miss. But the way that these tools, and it's both the way Atlas works as well as the Google summaries work, it feels more like this is the definitive answer. This isn't just a lucky answer.
Totally.
So And I think
Yeah.
we have, and it's interesting in a time where, we are living in a post-truth era where people have different versions of the truth. I mean, the tide situation might be something you can't really argue, but there'll be somebody who might argue about the earth being flat and,
Yeah.
tide not being what we think it is. I don't know. I don't hang out with those people, but there might be somebody out there who will even argue that one. And so having this tool that learns about you and what you want and will give you answers in a specific way and just show you that sliver seems to be the opposite direction of what ground news is doing, which is actually let's look at not this one source of truth to get
Hmm.
information, but looking at it broadly. So my
Hmm.
cultural worry about it is we're outsourcing, like you said, we're outsourcing the decisions about what we look at and how many things we look at to an AI. And where is that inconvenience of still creating your mental map, and how will it affect what we already have as a culture around getting information from social media and being in our own bubbles, etc. It gives a lot of power to OpenAI,
Oh,
and obviously they want it
100%.
because that's how they can monetize.
They want it, but you know what? We want it too. The AI is trained to be a people pleaser. It's trained to just make you feel superhuman, and you're getting your answers so much quicker. Previous ChatGPT models were very sycophantic, and like just you just overall the vibe is you are so smart, you are in control, and just the speed with which we get answers, or one gets their answers and can ask questions. All of this feeds into a feeling we like for ourselves. So it's about convenience. Yes, but it's also about how we feel working with tools like this. So, and then, yes, then these companies will start talking about targeting ads to you based on what you're searching, all the things you're thinking about. Because guess what? ChatGPT is basically embedded into this browser, right? So you can be browsing or doing research on whatever topic. And then, somewhere in the middle, you can be like, hey, by the way, I'm having a hard time with my with a friend of mine and I'm not sure what to do about it. Have like a mini therapy session in the middle. It all becomes just one unified experience. And it's in that moment that you can be shown a web page or an ad. And ads are not going to look like ads anymore. It's just going to feel like really well timed, just places you serendipitously arrive at, because that makes us feel good. It makes us feel like we are the captains of our own destiny on the internet, and we are just finding our way to exactly the perfect thing we need at the perfect time. It's not going to feel nefarious. It's going to feel helpful. With it, this is coming back to my original point of I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, because when the way I'm describing it, it sounds pretty like negative. But I think I would argue that a lot of people want this kind of experience. What I don't think they realize they lose when they accept this, when they make this trade-off consciously, is I think that um they don't they don't realize that now they are losing the ability, and especially younger people, going to lose the ability to determine like what a primary and secondary source is, for example, to the point of you already said it, right? The confidence. It's going to give you a perspective on a topic, but you don't know what sources it treated as its primary sources. And it will deny and take away that chance for you to explore a topic more deeply. And then ultimately, that can lead towards you kind of just accepting the groupthink on a subject. And if you're somebody that does want to protect your mind and critical thinking, and especially you're worried about how it's going to affect your children's mind and their ability to critically think, this is something that you should be conscious about. And I think in the face of that, the one last thing, because it's been rolling in my mind when you mentioned ground news, is I think within this is an opportunity, because there's been a lot of chatter of about for brands and online publications about we're losing all of our traffic because we're not getting the traffic from Google anymore. You can position yourself as a primary source of information, researched, vetted by humans. You can market, and then this is why brand matters a lot. And this is why actually building your personal brand and your professional brand really, really matters, because then you can promote yourself and your content as the antidote to that. Everything has a time and place. To your point, it was helpful to you in figuring out a gift for your friend. I don't think we should demonize all of these AI tools like with one big brush. I think one has to just be aware, but then there is an opportunity for everybody else that's like, feeling really bad about all this lost traffic. I think it's a great opportunity to focus on like what makes your content truly valuable and reliable. And that's what you should be selling. All right, monologue done.
Since you've been looking at the marketing material, that presents the roadmap of where this tool should be heading and what it's for. Moving your browser is a pain in the ass, right? Because you
Yeah.
have to move everything, like your whole existence is there. The other big step is the privacy concerns. There's even bigger concerns around how they're approaching our privacy than with
Hmm.
Google. And also, it's a new privacy threat compared to the one that we're used to
Hmm.
as Google and Facebook and the others. So
Hmm.
that's a pretty big hurdle. But so I was originally going to ask, do you imagine it being useful enough to give that power to OpenAI? But then what I really liked about what you said was that it feels good. So I think the usefulness is one thing, but how it makes you feel is even stronger than utility, right? So do I feel good using these tools? Do I feel good when I use them and what it delivers to me? Do you think that these concerns that we're talking about, and I think, we're probably part of the population who will go and use a physical map to train our map reading abilities, or like we'll seek out inconvenience for better or for more broader
Yeah.
information to build an
Yeah.
opinion. But generally, will the utility and the feelings that this will provide that are supposedly better, can you see that becoming a thing that people are going to be navigating towards a tool like this and actually this being the default way that we access information online?
Yes. Yes. I think it's an inevitability that we're going to move towards these agentified. Well, it's not just the agentified browser, but like a browser that's created around an LLM, right? I think that will become normalized very soon. I think there are design challenges. I know because I've been exploring designs for how to do this very same thing in a product that I'm working on right now. It's super interesting from a craft perspective. This is and it's new, it's terra incognita a little bit, right? I don't know if I'm a fan of the side panel like pattern personally because it just feels like it's taking up real estate on the screen and away from like the thing I'm actually focused on. Anyways, tangent. I think that it's going to be an inevitability that we're going that direction. I think that it's going to become normalized and we're all going to be trained and adept at now navigating the internet through this layer, whatever, DIA or through ChatGPT or whichever one of these models. Like it's going to become like, and we're going to say, like, I prefer the Claude browsing experience. I prefer the ChatGPT browsing experience. I think that probably is going to happen. However, there's going to be a lot of people that culturally are going to insist on basically being able to turn off. Like in this browser, you want to completely turn it off, disable it. And you're going to see people divided that way. Some people are going to want like the old school way of navigating the internet. And I actually think more and more you're going to see people engaging with local IRL content, because that's what you're talking about, a compass and a map, physical objects. You already said it. And I think as weird as it is for folks like us that are working in the digital space to say it, I actually think that we're going to start looking at notice boards again. We're going to start actually going to libraries again. And there's just going to be a newfound curiosity around these physical spaces where knowledge and information is shared. The internet is integrated into our lives. That's not going anywhere. I think we have now accepted that the way in which we go through life and operate our daily tasks and everything, it needs to have some element of AI integrated into it. So the genie is out of the bottle on that front. So yeah, we're talking about browsers right now, but we're actually just talking about generally about how do we consent to having AI integrated to this degree? because it honestly, it's giving her. It's giving the movie her.
Yeah,
We'll put
100%.
the trailer in the show notes, but like I that would be my biggest bet. It's that not only are the agents going to get better, but they're going to develop clearer, stronger personalities. And then not only is going to remember what you do, is going to remember you and how you like to talk, etc. And then, yes, people are going to basically have a buddy that's with them all the time. And then they're going to probably have more, you're going to have more of an intimate relationship with this persona than you might actually have with somebody in real life, because they're literally going to know everything that you have ever thought of, you're ever wondered about, you've ever felt. Yeah, I think that's inevitability.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. The inevitability of these tools going in that direction. It your analogy to using Google Maps and GPS made me think those led to the evolution of, I don't know if you've ever done geocaching or if you knew somebody who used to. Do you know
No,
geocaching? Where
no.
so the idea is it's a sort of asynchronous game that you can play with the geocaching community online,
Wait,
where you'll have a little object of some sort and you'll hide it somewhere, and you'll
right.
have instructions on where it is, and you have to then find it using both GPS as well as being in the real world and actually looking at
Yeah,
stumps or features
yeah,
in the
yeah,
park.
yeah.
And it's a fun way to really engage both with GPS as well
Mhm.
as the real world, because
Yeah,
you're then looking at details and trying to understand what do
yeah,
these cryptic clues mean. And when you find it, usually there's a little piece of paper inside where you can write your name and say, I
yeah,
was here and I succeeded. And this unlocked a new layer of how to engage with our surroundings and maps. So I was
mhm,
wondering what the equivalent of geocaching is going to be that's analogous to having agentic AI browsers that know everything about you. My hope is that it'll be something that allows us to, while it'll change our group version of reality, that it'll allow us
mm,
to really niche down and
mm,
say, here's something to discover that you wouldn't have discovered through Google because it ranked somewhere
mhm,
on page 350,
yeah,
but you're really going to love it, and actually use the fact that we'll have our own little realities as our as an advantage to
yeah,
discover more.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if you have a take on a hope for what this can
mm,
unlock that is positive.
yeah. I remember a version of the internet where like websites weren't the websites that we kind of know today. They were really different worlds, different experiences, spaces, really. The world wide web, like an ocean, had these little pockets and these areas that were about the most niche topics, and it was rarely ever just for information exchange or to sell you something. There was always a community angle to it. There was always around like, "Welcome, weirdo, you've arrived." Like there's other people here in the big world that care about the things that you care about. So my hope will be that while ChatGPT and Claude and all these other LLMs become basically the gatekeepers of information and how we consume it, that people will lean into the fact that the internet is still a very big, wide place. And brands and anyone who's trying to, I don't know, just figure out their new strategy for the internet will understand like you have to really curate a space. You no longer can just write things and have people read it and then put your community in a Discord channel. You can't do that. You can utilize these third party apps, but you got to curate an experience and a space. And I think there's a lot of platforms out there that literally let you design that whole kind of like literally a world, like world building kind of thing, where everybody has like an avatar and you can like engage with each other in different spaces on the map. But that's kind of the picture that comes to my mind. I think I think the more that people realize like you don't have to be at the the what you're trying to bring to the community or to the world through your brand, it's not just information. It doesn't have to only go through these tools. You do need to figure out how to like make sure your content can get indexed by these tools for sure. But that's not that all you have to offer on the internet.
I love that as a takeaway that basically, since these tools will be built on not just utility, but how you feel, that then building deeper experiences that go beyond the quick interaction, but actually invite you in to a
Yeah.
world where you really can go in depth will
Hmm.
hopefully become more important. That it's not just
Yeah.
snippets that you consume when you ask a question, but actually, here's a snippet that's the invitation for you to open the door and go into a much
Hmm.
deeper, broader experience. And that is
Hmm.
based on what I'm seeking, what feeling, what information that I'm seeking. So I think that
100%.
as a positive view of where this is heading, that's a really great takeaway for people building products that actually depth is going to become even more important.
Yeah. Depth and weirdness, honestly. Like, I know we're at time for our chat, but I really do have to say it. Like me myself, as somebody who's been working in product for now many years, there's going to be a lot I have to unlearn when it comes to structuring a digital experience. There's so much we try to make frictionless. We try to deliver information really efficiently. We like to follow patterns of sites that we know convert well and do well. Throw all of that out the window.
Yeah.
Really, go back to a time when the internet had no rules and really start with a blank canvas, um, and just see where that takes you, really. And this is why I have a lot of hope. And I love the fact that people who are not from this industry are now building things and creating things because they will bring this weirdness and the stuff where we're like, but that's not the most efficient way to get somebody to sign up for your newsletter. And it's just like, yeah, but that's not the point anymore. Because the point is like, are they going to keep coming back and be part of this space and this community that you're creating? The whole question, the rule book, everything changes now with the introduction of browsers like this. Like, are the fundament this is a and I guess maybe that's something which I didn't really state earlier, but I think really should be, that I do believe in, is that this we are we are what we're witnessing is really a fundamental change in how we're going to be consuming information and interacting on the internet. But it doesn't have to be, a bad thing, but it is the end of something,
Mm.
you know? So do with that what you will.
Well, it's up to us to, if there's an ending, then we got to construct the beginning in a way that is valuable and good for people.
What else can you do?
It's great. I love it. Thank you. But this was a really, really, really great topic, and I love where it took us.
Yeah, me too. Me too.